how to submit to women.
Mhm.
How men submit to men. Sorry, it's too early. Got a clip on play for you guys.
Have a man that's willing to make certain sacrifices. He's willing to sacrifice his rest. He's willing to sacrifice his happiness sometimes,
Right.
you know, in order to make sure you're straight. That's actually a form of submission. And so that is a man surrendering it in his own way.
Just looks a
right?
lot different.
It looks extremely different. Every way that a man loves his wife is a form of submission. If a man is a protector, right? If he is willing to lay his life on the line for his woman, right? If he's willing to die for his family, there is no, that is the ultimate form of submission.
Mm.
So it's a little different spin to it because we often always talk about the women submitting
Yeah.
to the man. In this particular video, she states that men don't realize it, but men submit to the women. Men submit to the women. Let that sink in for a little bit. Is it true? What are you guys' thoughts about it? Who wants to go ahead and tackle this first?
I agree with that. I think that in their own right, men have their roles that they play just as a woman. When we talk about equal rights between gender roles and things of that sort, I think that they equally, in part, play their roles. I think that she did a wonderful job breaking down that description of what that is. It's a combined unison. It's not just one. And I think men sometimes do get overlooked by that.
Okay. Let me go ahead and get a brother in there. Go ahead, Louise. What are your thoughts about it? How men submit to women?
I think that it's true. I mean, I think that there are certain things that you delegate to your woman, that they might have better strengths, better insight, and you kind of lean on them to kind of take over a particular, task or, you know, effort in the household. And I don't think that a man needs to know everything, but I think he needs to know enough of everything to kind of familiarize himself with how to handle situations. I think too often a lot of guys think that it's all you need to have the full package, but you keep forgetting at times that you do have a partner who is just as equally as competent as you and might know certain things that you might not know, and sort of you find a way to kind of balance and piggyback off each other to kind of make that union much stronger.
Okay. Like that. Go ahead, Miss Cam. I see you came off the mic. Let's make sure we mute in between panel.
Um, so I feel like I would have to disagree. I think that there's strength in a woman submitting to a man, and I don't think that we're equal to each other. I think that him being a provider, him being a protector are separate from submission. But yeah, that's just.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I also disagree with a man being submissive to a woman because ideally a man has that authority figure and the woman is supposed to submit to a man. So when saying that women or men should be submissive to a woman is kind of weird to me. I don't like the idea of my husband submit to me. I want him to have that masculine role and you know taking ownership and most of the the duties and the responsibilities, protecting, providing for the family. And I really take pride in that I could just follow along with his leadership. So I don't really like the notion of men can be submissive. I think the examples she gave were just traits that a man should just have in general, but to say a man submitting to a woman is kind of problematic in my
I
in
get
my
what you're saying. I get what both of you guys are saying, and it's an interesting point that you all made with that. So I can understand why you would think that, but I don't think it emasculates a man just because they are able to submit to a woman. It's a different type of description of what that role is, but nevertheless, it's something that is still appreciated amongst a couple. So
well
yeah.
because a man typically has that authority over the family, right? So when we think of submission, that's what you think, the male having that the final say, that pretty much the authority over the family. So that word doesn't really align with what, she's trying to portray in that video. So I don't know.
I'm gonna read the definition of submission just so we can understand. Sometimes we use words and we attach our own point of view. But here we go. The action or fact of accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will of authority of another person. Definition 2 says the action of presenting a proposal, application, or other document for consideration or judgment. You guys can go ahead, my bad.
Okay, so I feel like from hearing the definition, it still sounds like that's not something a man should be doing. I feel like the man is the superior power, so you shouldn't be, switching roles in submission in the regard that she's speaking on. I don't feel like there's a way for a man to, I don't know, like bend his will to a woman. I don't think a man should be submitting to a woman.
I think that even if you have a situation to where the man relinquishes over his paycheck, that's a level of submission in its own right. And meaning that what that man worked for his family, because he is the head. And we still have people that live in that traditional setting where they will relinquish their checks over and allow the woman to take that. So again, that speaks to a level of submission by definition. You see what I'm saying? And Miss Ray, you came off mute, so I thought you had something to say, sweetheart.
Yes, like I don't understand personally how the word submit got such a bad rap. Like, why is it viewed so negatively? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. When you're in a relationship, you are going to have to submit at certain points. And I don't understand what's negative about role switching, because roles will have to switch in certain points. There are going to be areas as a woman where you're going to be strong when your man is weak. He cannot always be strong. He cannot always know what's right. There are going to be times when you know what's right. There are going to be times where you need to take on that leadership role. And that's just the fact of being in a relationship, period.
And to piggy off of that, Rhea, we have to say that a woman, and this might be argumentative, that a woman is more of the brains a lot of times in situations, because we are able to yield them for some of the things that they may not have foresight of. And so please don't take away your essence as a woman and what your contributions are in a relationship.
All right. And so again, I want to say there is strength in submission, which is why I don't want to take that away from women, because I think that is a power that we have, again, like you said, over men, like that's our power. But to use your example about the paycheck, I don't think that's a man submitting. I think that's him delegating his power to the woman. Like it's his paycheck, so I'm telling you, here, this is your role. Your role is to use the money and, do with it accordingly. So, again, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing, but I think it's a great thing for women.
All right, let me get some of the men in there. Hank, what are your thoughts, sir? Or Bruiser, either one of you guys can go.
Go ahead, Bruce.
You're on mute, Bruce.
Bruce, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. A lot of y'all have some good points. A man doesn't, let's just be clear, a man doesn't submit to a woman. That's just crazy. Men submit to his plan. A plan that requires hard work, focus, sacrifice. Just because a woman happens to be in that plan, doesn't mean he is submitting to her. A man requires submission. He does not give it. He leverages his duty, his sacrifice, his seed in exchange for what he wants a wife to maintain during marriage. The men who do submit to women are the ones who are not leveraging their power. Those men willingly give away their seed, their provisions, their protection, and time in exchange for the things, they hope to get out of a woman. That is an example of a man being submissive, allowing women who are out of order into his system, in which ultimately corrupts the system.
It's a good point, Bruiser, but let's not get away from the fact that there are levels of that definition of submission. Cameron, you made a great assertion about that. And I really like your viewpoint on that as well. And I received that. But what we're saying is that, and so did the young lady in the clip, that there are at some point, not to say by its topical definition, but a little bit more visceral, that a man in some regard does have a level of submission to their woman. And that's what we don't want to take away that point, because you guys make great points.
Men
So
don't
what would
submit
be
to
an
women at all,
example,
period.
Eve?
Like I said, we submit to the plan, because whether you like it or not, regardless if it's you or if it's the next woman that's willing to cooperate, regardless of who it is, our bottom line and our focus is going to be straight laser, especially when it comes to marriage and our kids. You don't give a damn who that person is. If you ain't with it, you can be gone. We ain't submitting to you. We submit.
Can a woman require
we
something from a man? Is a woman allowed to have requirements of a man that they choose to court, date, and marry?
Yeah, but her requirements need to line up to what she's actually qualifies for.
For sure, but it would still be a level of submission of that man, correct?
No, it's not. We don't submit to the woman. The woman submit to us.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I ask, where did men submitting to women come from?
It never came from nothing. It came from some foolery, some foolish woman making a statement like the one in the video. We ain't never submit to no woman. They wanted to be like that, but that's not how we roll.
So Eve, do you believe that men have the final say in a relationship?
Absolutely, I do. I'm not anti-man in what their role is. It may seem that way, but that's quite the contrary. I think that I'm looking at things on more of a visceral level instead of just, from its exterior. I think that in any case, when you choose a mate, that is contingent upon what those expectations, what those values, what these same belief systems that you hold with that person. And so with that, to a degree, you both have to submit to one another in order to make that unionship. And so if you see it from the way that I'm seeing it, by the way that I'm looking at it, not just by societal norms, but by things a little bit beneath the surface, if you will.
Do you take the official definition as, like, do you not agree with the official definition of submission? Because I've in listening to the official definition, it can't be applied to men. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I feel like you're changing the definition to make it make sense for men, but they're not equal to us. So there's nothing in weakness for us to not, there's nothing weak about a woman being submissive to a man, And I think that the fact that women have this ideology that it is a negative connotation now, it's like, no, if it's negative, then we have to make it so that men do it too. Because if men do it too, then it can't be a bad thing. But it's like, it's not a bad thing if we're the only ones doing it, because it's our role and they have their roles. So.
For sure, but does it say in the definition that it's specifically designed for a man? Submission is designed for a man. Does that say in the dictionary? And we have to put these things in perspective, because it doesn't just specify that for a specific gender. It's a umbrella, if you will.
Right. And so, no, it doesn't say specifically, this is only a female thing, but neither does it say cooking is only a female thing. But we do say that women should be the ones in the house cooking, So I don't think it has to explicitly say, verbatim, this is a woman's job, this is a man's job. But I think we can imply, based off of how we are, raised and how we're socially supposed to be, that it's supposed to be the woman's role. In that, just like protection, it doesn't say a woman is supposed to protect, neither does it say a man is, but we imply that to men.
You got to understand, this stuff is coming from, we're talking about natural order. If you want to keep leaning on a definition, you're going to find yourself embracing the ideology that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. I mean, it's just coming. So just get ready for it. But you still got to be able to reserve that natural way of thinking on how things are supposed to be. Just because the definition is starting to change, it's me personally, it's not going to change my opinion on the way things are supposed to be. And I got nothing against anybody who wants to identify as something different, but for me personally, I'm sticking with the facts.
Well, you want to get Ray in there. I know she's been trying to speak. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, so with that being said, I have something to say to both Cam and to Bruiser. So with Cam, this is no disrespect, but I'm honestly just sitting here reeling because I've never heard a woman speak this rhetoric the way that you're speaking it right now. And I mean, it's kind of makes me sad, honestly. It kind of makes me
talking about
sad.
me?
What was that?
Are you referencing me?
No, I'm talking about
Oh, okay.
And then with Bruiser, so you say a man can't be a woman and a woman can't be a man. So I guess you're one of those people that don't believe in the existence of someone being transgender or non-binary.
No, I believe that people can go ahead and do that. I believe society has created a technology, a space, and understanding that you can go out and do it. But I do still believe in the natural order of things. Just because somebody say a man is a woman or a woman is a man, that doesn't mean I have to be forced into believing that. You know what I'm saying? I still reserve my own opinion on what I think. But just because society say, "Oh no, you're not even," it's going to come to a point. And from my understanding, from what I've been seeing, is that they're going to completely do away with gender. Period. Not saying that I'm not going to be able to.
You submitting to her right now, Bruce.
That's
You know you
already
don't
been
believe
taking
that.
place.
Bruce, you are submitting to her right now with what you just said.
I'm not
Come on,
submitting to
Bruce. I
her.
know
I'm
you
just
better
coming
than that.
down to her. I'm just coming down to her level so she can understand it without being triggered, just so we
Bruce,
can
you
have
submitting to her right now.
useful dialogue.
You are
Because I know
submitting
how
to
these
her, Bruce.
conversations. I
Then
know
let
how
it
these
go.
conversations can go.
And
Down.
let the truth be known, dog. Don't do that. Let me say
But
what
I
I need to say.
You're
but to
coming
be
down
honest,
to my level.
Cameron, I think Cameron put it perfectly. And for a woman to come out here and go against the woman's code and actually stand up for what's right, and for you to say you sad, it just reminds us the state that Black women are in.
Well, let me go, man. For y'all hold on. Y'all get to running off at the goddamn mouth. Look, the only time a man submit to a woman is when he says I do. That's the only time. When he bless a woman with his last name is the only time he submit to her, because he gave up every other option he had or could have had, or any other woman that he was dealing with. He gave all that up. That's the only time a man will ever and should submit. Now, with this thing about, I don't know what you say, Ray, about don't believe in. No, hell no. You are what you are. I don't care if you change your outer. You still a man. I don't care if you change your outer. You still a woman. That's what you are. Ain't nothing gonna change about that. Just because you change your outward appearance doesn't mean you're a man or you're a woman. So no, I don't believe in that bullshit.
I think what's happening right now in society is that traditionalism is starting to become a thing of the past, and it's starting to usher in as a culture. Um, I would reference myself as a traditionalist, contrary to some people's beliefs. And so it is a dying breed out here. And I love the fact that people, especially those on the panel and those in the chat and beyond, still want to hold true to those norms, because it is something that's happening today. You're able to change and transform things in whatever you want it to be. So I'm not here to negate that. I'm probably a little technical. This is probably where you and we're getting kind of crossed in with our form of communication, but nevertheless, I do believe in the institution of traditionalism.
I just wanted to say really quickly, for Rhea, I wanted to ask, like, what part of my rhetoric makes you sad specifically? And then for Eve, I wanted to ask, if you say you're like a traditional woman, then what aspect of a man submitting are you agreeing with?
Again, like I said, I'm not basing it off of the expected norm of by definition. What I'm looking at it is a bit visceral, like the young lady that was on the clip. She said certain things would define that man as being as a submissive, and so I agree with that in that form. But I also agree with you, Cameron, and you, Bruiser, that there is a traditionalized a stigma attached to submission by gender, and I believe in that.
Okay.
So it's not up for debate on my end of that. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Ray. I know you wanted to. That she asked you a question as well, and if you want to chime in.
Oh yeah, so I would say the part that made me sad about your rhetoric, as I called it, is the fact that you seem so rigid in, okay, things have to be this one way. I don't believe that life is one size fits all. I don't believe that gender is one size fits all. I don't believe that we all have to be a certain way. I believe you do what works for you. You do what fits for you. So you're kind of like, oh, women, we're the ones that are supposed to be cooking. We're the ones that are supposed to be doing this. Whoever said that anyone was supposed to do anything? I just categorically disagree with that.
Yeah, but I also think that that's a very postmodern thinking, considering that for hundreds and thousands of years we've always had natural order. You know, men knew their role, and women also had to play the role in that relationship, in tribes and communities and things like that. It's only within the last 60 to 70 years that we've started to kind of slowly turn the ship upside down, right? With new different ideologies and different perspectives on how relationship dynamics should work and shouldn't work, right? And I think that a lot of the content that you see nowadays is to kind of, in a way, slowly emasculate and kind of erode the sort of masculine foundation of men, right?
Yeah. Can we recall when that started to happen? Can we recall when that did start to happen? Women started taking on some of these roles as men. I would ask that a man answer that question, please.
Can I respond to Rhea really quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so I just wanted to respond. I think it's sad that as a woman who can only create a man or a woman, that you think gender is fluid. I think that that's a problem in our society now, is that, there are women who, of course, I don't know how old anybody is, but, there is generations of women who are older than I am that are telling us that, gender can be fluid. You can be what you want. There's no right way to live life. There's no wrong way to do it. It's like, if you want certain goals and you want to achieve certain things, there is a right and wrong way to do things. And I think that we need to start implementing that so that people know what to follow.
And again, and I want to just kind of piggyback off of what all you collectively been saying. But again, to answer my question to the men only, when did this start to come about? When women started having this independent role and having these expectations, this, like you said, Luis, postmodernism type of ideology of things.
All right.
Can you answer that? And when you answer that, I will also respond to that.
Okay, I just want to have one guy answer that. I know we're kind of getting a little bit off topic, so we just have one guy just answer that, and then we're gonna go to balance, and I'll play the clip for you. You see the clip, balance? Okay, I'll play the clip for you again so you can respond. But anybody want to answer Eve's question?
What was her question?
When did it start? Did it begin that the woman started taking on some of these roles that they are both the provider, the man and the woman in the household? When did that start to take place in the household for women, and why women start having this ideology about what certain roles are, like Lee said, post-modern idealisms about gender roles?
I want to say maybe the 1980s, third wave feminism. Just keep it
I
short.
would definitely say 80s.
It would be World War II.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
That's
so
when
you,
they
so you
introduced
actually
women into the
question,
workforce.
you
We
never
realized it
answered
was
it.
like,
we can equate it back to World War II when the husbands were going off to war. Okay, and the woman had this thing called a second shift where they were working the man's job while coming home and providing for their families. And so when they came home from the war, the men wanted to get the jobs back, but guess what? It was this big phenomenon that women also wanted to work as well. And so that was a fight in that in that entirety. So, and I'm saying that to say this, it stemmed back a long time ago. And also, you're correct, it did also happen in the late 70s, early 80s, when welfare started to take place, especially in the Black communities, because we didn't during the World War II era as Black people receive welfare. It was
So how
predominantly.
does that make you feel knowing that man sacrificed his life, went out abroad to go
Mhm.
die in a foreign country and to come back and have to combat you for the natural order?
Mm. Um, it doesn't make me feel any way, but I think a person, if they get an experience of something, that they have a right to see that through. Now, I understand what your point is, Bruiser, but also taking looking at the fact that why these things are, we have to dive a little bit deeper, what's beneath the surface. Why did this happen? And this is what the lens that I'm looking at it is, not surface level. And
Can,
that's what anything that I'm saying in response to.
You know why? Because naturally women wouldn't want to go to World War II.
But I have a question. Do you think that just because a woman has to start providing more for her family, that her femininity has to leave her? Because it seems like the argument a lot of y'all have is that because we had to pick up the slack wherever or whatever the reason was for why the man wasn't there, you lost your femininity because you became masculine in being a provider. But as a woman, we're supposed to naturally be feminine. So where did the femininity ever go?